Welcome one and all, it's time for yet another red hot spicy Kings of War battle report. Abyssal Dwarfs against the Ogres once again. And this time we are at 2,300 points. Now if you saw the battle report featuring these two armies recently, you'll notice there are some similarities in the list, but of course it's a different layout, different terrain, different scenario. So let's have a look at a little bit of an overview here. Well, as you can see, the two armies facing off on the table. We now have a big flyer on the Abyssal Dwarf side. And you'll also notice we've got these strange tokens out on the table. That's because we're playing the hold the line scenario, where you have a central section here, and you have two flank sections stripped down the centre of the table, and the middle section, if you control it at the end, that's worth 3 victory points. And the two on the outside are worth 2 each. So if you control the two flanks, you're going to win. If you control the centre and a flank, you're going to win. Okay, that's pretty simple. Quite straightforward. And as in the other games against this ogre army, my opponent set up the terrain in such a way that the roll-off would actually matter for picking a side. And let's go through the lists. So my list, which as you can see, is a possible warm-up for a Krampus-themed Kings of War tournament. It might get tweaked, of course, but as it stands, we've got the Mortal Guard with the Infernal Wardens for the extra crushing strength. We've got 2 Gargoyle troops for chaff. We've got 2 half-breed regiments. Now, in previous games, their upgrades were a little bit different because I've had to rejig the points to fit in this big flying monstrosity. So one of them has Boots of Striding, and the other has the Helm of the Drunken Ram for extra thunderous charge. So just slightly different tweaks to the half-breed regiments. They're all valid upgrades you could put on them. I've also been running them with +1 to hit and elite as well, which are very good. 2 grotesque hordes that I don't feel like particularly need upgrades because they're so tasty already with a billion different special rules. Katsujam rocket launcher, which I'm liking a lot at the moment. We have Susan and Bracky, of course, mainstays. The Abyssal Grotesque Champion, very expensive, but he's also very good. And the Supreme Ironcaster on Great Winged Half-Breed. So what does this bad boy have going for him? Well, in addition to being just a big flying titan that can do okay in combat, only hits on 4s with 8 attacks, so it's not amazing in combat, but you can give it all these upgrades. So you get Fireball. It's Fireball 12 initially, which has gone up to 18 because I've given it the Diadem of Dragonkind as well. I've also added Heal 4 on there, and the Half-Breed Affinity, so that when it's near Half-Breeds or Grotesques, it gets +1 casting dice for each spell, to a maximum of +3. It also has Radiance of Life as well. So Radiance of Life is going to be healing units, then I've got Heal 4, and you can do 2 spells in the same go, and you don't even need line of sight or be able to see the unit that you're healing either, which is very handy. So all in all, it just looks very good. It's very expensive, but it looks like a good piece to support some of the other units in the list, particularly the Grotesques. So let's see how it goes, because I'm up against Ogres with quite a lot of juice. So it's very similar to the other battle reports featuring this army. So we've got a Sharpstick Regiment, Sharpstick Horde with the Crystal Pendant, 2 Shooter Hordes. We've got Hunters with the Helm of Confidence to inspire themselves. We've got 2 Warrior Hordes. There's actually 3 Warrior Hordes, I think, in this list. When extra ones come in. There's a Crocodog Wrangler, who is very handy at dealing with individuals with the Duelist special rule there, for getting those extra attacks. And it can also charge through the legs of Ogre units, which is very handy. The Giant is in there again as well. We've got the Sergeant on a Chariot, which is a little bit of extra speed for the Ogres this time, which is very handy. And there's a Berserker Bully and an Ogre Standard Bearer with the Bane Chant, Flute of Insatiable Darkness item. So, looks pretty scary, and I've got more individuals, so therefore I have lower unit strength 20. My opponent has unit strength 26, unless on this tiny image I'm not reading it correctly, but I think that's right. And there is the layout. So This is before the Ogres have the opportunity to redeploy 2 of their warrior units, which I think are the 2 on the flanks have the choice of redeploying. There's a bit of a shooting battery in the middle there with the Ogre Bully to guard them and a Crocodile Wrangler to guard them as well, because you may recall in the previous game these 2 armies, very similar armies played, I got some of my individuals and gargoyles right in there and really messed with the enemy forces. And to ward off my individuals, Crocodile is in there, who is quite scary against them, definitely has a chance of killing most individuals in the game in one go. So, up there we've got a regiment of the Sharpsticks with some Ogre Warriors. There's all the guns. Got the crystal exploding pendant Sharpsticks there, who are obviously very good against all my cavalry and large cavalry and flyers, of which I have quite a few. Got the giant behind the hunters, Ogre Warriors there and there. Got the chariot right at the back. I don't think it wants to be shot. And here's my setup. So because I won this roll off to choose sides, I chose this side. There's a nice big hill right in the deployment zone. So I've put my rocket launcher on there. I've put my big caster in between the 2 grotesque units so that it's going to be getting the extra dice to spell cast. Half-breeds out on one side with gargoyles behind them ready to leap over as cover. And gargoyles behind these grotesques also ready to leap out as cover or to just box in a particular unit later on. On this side I've got more of my annoying stuff. So I've got the grotesque champion, got the half-breed lord, the Bracky of course, and the queen of the gargoyles, Susan, with the immortal guard with crushing strength there. And into the game. So you can see they don't move, by the way, the ogre units. I think they stay where they are. They choose not to redeploy. So into the movement, and round 1 you can see that these grotesques take a lot of shooting immediately and they become wavered right at the start of the game, which is not very nice. And yeah, apart from that, there's just a big old advance. Not the shooters though, they wouldn't advance, that would be crazy. Into my turn, and yeah, I'm putting the pressure on with my individuals immediately on the grotesque champion, because these shooters are in the woods so I can see them, so I'll be quite happy to charge them, especially with the grotesque champion who has striders, so he wouldn't care that they're in the woods. Half-breeds will easily take out one of these units. Susan maybe try and get the other one. So I feel pretty good about this area at the moment. And look at that. So with the Radiance of Life, actually I haven't done Radiance of Life yet, so with regeneration and with the healing, and then I remembered to do the Radiance of Life later, this unit actually gets down to 0 damage, and I've put the gargoyles in front of them just so they don't get shot again since they were wavered. Don't want them to take any more damage to finish them off, but as it is, they're perfectly healthy. Everyone else advances, using this bit of terrain here to kind of cover my advance. And the rocket launcher I don't think does anything significant in this turn. I'm quite happy for those Ogre Warriors to be heading off down the flank on their own. Now, they can score an entire table section, of course, this section here, which would be worth 2 victory points. But I don't mind that because they're big, expensive unit, and it'll take them out of the game if they want to stay over there. But because the battle's likely to be fought in this area, they can actually come over and still be in the equation of contesting this. They've also got the chariot who could go in there, who's just 1 unit strength. So it would be less to invest in it. The shooters, because they're shooting, of course, it means they're not that close to the areas they want to contest until later in the game. So, interesting to see how long they stay back there. What's my plan then? Well, I'm actually going to throw some things into combat now. It might be a wild idea, but I'm going to go nuts because I haven't got anything threatening my flank. This unit's facing the wrong way. I'm going to throw my half-breeds into the Sharpsticks, who have phalanx, of course, so I might not actually kill them, but I'm going to throw them in. Susan can charge this unit, and if she could waver them, that would be very nice. And yeah, we'll see anyway. Because obviously I've got the speed edge, so I'm going to dictate when that happens. My opponent could, of course, reposition in the next turn, but it can't really hit me with anything. So, turn 2, and these guys do actually look down my flank now. So they are now a threat. And these two just move up. Of course, they can't reach the half-breeds. There was no reason for me to be sitting in their charge range, so I didn't. And you can see that Susan can still see that unit, though. So that part of my plan is still valid. The gargoyles in front of the grotesques get shot off, which is expected. And there we go. So the enemy has closed in, facing this way. I'm going to have to block them in with gargoyles. On to my turn. So, the half-breeds kill the Sharpstick Regiment. Susan does 4 damage to the Ogre Warriors there, so making a good start over on this side. And the Crocodog had moved up into the woods, and the shooters had moved back, so I couldn't see through the woods with the Grotesque Champion and charge them. So, what I decided to do was put Bracky into these shooters to stop them shooting for a turn, put the Grotesque Champion with Strider into the Crocodog, and hope to kill it in one go, but I only did 3 damage. I think it only hit with 3 of its 7 attacks, the Champion. So that was very disappointing. And I would have liked to have killed it, because the reason I want it dead is because it's the perfect thing to take out Bracky. So I would have liked to have killed that, and then been able to turn and look at these units. Because as it stands, this shooter horde could actually flank charge into the woods, though. So they will be hindered. And in the middle, I do kill off the exploding horde with a double charge from my half-breeds and my grotesques here. And the grotesques just turn to face the enemy, so they're not getting flanked by anything, and the half-breeds stay as they are, because they're safe from this unit of warriors that the gargoyles are blocking off. And this wall means that if this unit wants to charge me, then they're going to be hindered. So I would hope to survive that, but they did both take 4 damage from the explosion of the crystal pendant, which I was prepared to live with, even though this grotesque unit should die with all the stuff looking at it here. All these 3 units could charge it. But I'm prepared to live with that so I can start fighting with some of my other units. Because I've got all these 3 at the back here waiting to go. And you can also see that I fireballed this unit with my Ironcaster. And I did 8 damage by the looks of it there. So that's a good start on them. So they're right up there. And on to turn 3 for the Ogres. So, the Grotesque Champion does get hit, unfortunately, by the Berserker Bully and the shooters, and the Crocodile is going after Bracky. So this could end up going quite badly for me here, all because I took the chance and sent my units into multiple different targets and didn't kill any of them. So obviously I did have the chance to maybe throw them both into the Crocodile, which would have certainly killed it. But then both shooter units would have been free to just shoot, and I didn't like the sound of that. So that would have been an option, though. Ogre Warriors just ignore the fact Susan's punching them in the flank and just go straight into the half-breeds there. And yeah, so lots of stuff in combat here. You can see that the Ogre Warriors have gone into the half-breeds, the Hunters and the Giant have both gone into the Grotesques there, and these Gargoyles are obviously going to die. They were just there as a roadblock. So let's see who's dead at the end of all this. Well, Bracky gets killed. Look at all that damage he took, mostly from the Crocodile. That thing's an absolute beast against individuals. Grotesque Champion dies. He actually gets quite unlucky to die there, because hindered in the flank. It's a lot of attacks, but they're not that good attacks. So he took a decent amount of damage, though, and then a decent nerve roll as well to take him out. So I think, again, the Grotesque Champion gets a bit unlucky, as he did in the previous game, you may recall. The half-breeds survive, which is good, because now I'm very likely to kill them with the combined charge of these guys and Susan. Gargoyles, of course, die. Half-breeds die. And the Grotesques die. So yeah, loads of stuff got killed there, so it's suddenly not looking great, and I'm questioning my life choices now. I think this unit got quite a good roll, considering they were making a hindered charge. And obviously these two have got a chance of taking out a unit in one go together, so that wasn't a big surprise. So yeah, neither of my attacking fronts there went that well, and suddenly I'm going to have to start thinking about alternate ways to win this game. As it stands, if I just go toe-to-toe and just try and delete things and trade units, it's going to end badly. So, what have I got up my sleeve here to try and turn this around? First of all, this shooter horde is facing that way, and my flyer has a flank on it. So, even though he only has 8 attacks hitting on 4s, doubling them up in the flank could be good. It's already damaged unit as well. And that would get my flyer in a good position to then threaten the rest of the enemy, and no one is facing that way either. So it's a good target. Flyer's going to go over there. These two, instead of throwing themselves into the giant and then getting killed with the counter charge from all these units, they're just going to back up a bit. And then I'm going to try and kill off this unit. So it'll still put me in a decent position. I'm just a bit low on units at this point. Into the next turn for the Ogres. Or for, no, for these, this is for the Abyssal Dwarves now. So the Ogres to get double charge there, and I waver them with the half-breeds and Susan, which is okay. They're not going to be able to fight me, and Susan can just fly off and let the half-breeds finish them off next turn, so she doesn't have to waste more time on them. And the Ironcaster, there you go. So taking that big spellcaster shows its versatility. If the enemy gives you a flank, you've got that 20-inch charge with 16 attacks on 4s with Crushing 3 and Vicious. That sounds pretty good to me, so kills that unit, which is good. Only have to worry about the Crocodile charging me, which won't get more attacks because I'm not an individual, so I can live with that. And then I just back away so that I'm only in charge range of minimal units. Now, I think I have had to leave my Mortal Guard in a position where they could get flanked by the shooters. But a hindered flank charge from the shooters, not always that great. Occasionally it does really well, as you saw a minute ago. But in general, maybe they wouldn't want to do it against a Defense 5-17 unit, because that would bring them out of their good shooting position. Now, my opponent is up on units, so I would probably consider making that move at this point, because I've already got other pieces over here that could be brought into play, and you don't actually need to completely kill them in one round. So even if you don't kill them, what's the worst that could happen? You then get charged by Grotesques, and then I'm facing the wrong way, and you're bringing in all these units towards me. So maybe staying there and shooting is a valid option. You're not going to get hit by anything next turn, probably. So, interesting dilemma. What would you do in this situation? Would you take the flank charge on the Immortal Guard? That's an interesting tactical question. And on to turn 4 for the Ogres. So they decide not to. They just reposition their line, move everyone into a good spot here. And this unit is contesting this area. All the others ready and primed to strike at my slower units there. So the Chariot is faster than everything I've got here. The Giant is the same speed as the Grotesques, and these two units are slower. So they decide they don't want to engage yet, and they're just going to back off a little bit and try and bring everything in together rather than one at a time, which is a valid strategy. And you can see it from a slightly different angle there. Crocodile does a bit of damage to my Ironcaster but doesn't kill it, which is very important. And because of that, I've got dilemmas in my next turn now. Because obviously these guys can't fight, so I'm going to win on that side. What am I going to do with him? He's been grounded, so I can't fly off and charge anyone right now. I could charge the flank of this Chariot, which would leave me safe from being charged by most of the enemies, but I would be hitting on 5s with 16 attacks. So there's a good chance I wouldn't kill it doing that, and it would just put me in a position where I can be countercharged by it, and maybe this bully could charge me as well. So I just don't like the look of that move. What I do like the look of is biding my time for another turn and killing the Crocodile, because it's really cramping my style. Anyone I want to land behind enemy lines, if Susan wants to go back there at some point, she doesn't want the Crocodile to be around. So I'll countercharge the Crocodile. It's already taken 3 wounds, hopefully kill it, and then I can turn back and face this direction and I'm not being harassed. And then when the enemy start moving, maybe something will open up for me. But I think just biding my time, not throwing anything in, is a good idea right now. I'm going to win this fight, so I've got backup coming soon as well. Turn 4 for me, obviously, crush those puny Ogres on that side, and the half-breeds turn to face the action again. Susan just flies off behind the enemy, and they're going to have to get out of the woods, or she's going to charge them. The half-breed, the great winged half-breed with an Ironcaster mounted on it, does kill the Crocodile in close combat, which is great. Got rid of that threat, and I'm now not under threat by anyone with this model as well. So, look at all that and see all the action, just waiting for the enemy, and I could potentially start fireballing the enemy as well. If they want to turn around and look at me, I can still fly over them. So, causing a bit of mischief now with 2 flyers behind enemy lines, so it's not all over yet. The depends where the enemy commits the resources, because scoring units, there are these shooters and the Berserker Bully and the Chariot and the Giant, who are all maybe in a position where they could contest this area if they start going that way. The Standard Bearer and these warriors are really... mainly they're going to be here because it's unlikely they'll make it all the way across there. And this unit can only contest here. The Standard Bearer could duck in there as well to contest it. They could all just back away, but then they'd kind of let me have this area. So they've really got to go into the middle here. And it's interesting choices to be made, because if you leave one unit in there, and then I manage to shoot it, that's not a good time for you. And I don't think I've actually mentioned my rocket launcher yet, because it's not done much. So, what does my opponent go for now? Well, let's go back and look. So the Berserker Bully, who has Wild Charge, manages to get within range to charge one of these units, and the Chariot goes in as well, because they want to advance, but they want to use these two to cover the advance. So, got the Chariot into the Grotesques and the Bully into the Immortal Guard. They won't kill them, but they're covering so the enemy can move forward without me charging them, which allows the Giant and the Warriors and the Standard Bearer to move into the central scoring zone, and these Warriors are just hanging back here. So it's kind of a good spot for them. They're in a scoring area, but also if the fight takes place here and there's an emergency, they could be brought in. So, yeah, you don't want to hang out really far back in a scoring zone unless you're worried about being killed, but this unit shouldn't be too scared about that right now. However, one thing that is a threat to them is this bad boy. Now, I do have the possibility of going over there to try and chase them down with him, and if he were to kill them and he was the only scoring unit in there, that would be good times for me. So, a bit of damage done, but not much, as you'd expect. The shooters have moved out of the woods, so Susan can't charge them, which means she can't actually charge anyone this turn. So she's just going to have to reposition in turn 5. I countercharge into these two, do some decent damage on the Chariot and the Bully, but not enough to kill them, and the half-breeds are just getting back into the action. My big flyer decides, well, I measure and realise I'm not quite in range to charge this unit, but I am just about in range to move 10 and then fireball them, and do some good wounds, and waver them. So that's great, because they're really in a prime position to die now. So, Susan just lands in the middle of the battlefield there, so she's got the pick of where she wants to help out next turn. So I'm actually feeling slightly okay about this now. I've lost a lot of units, but with positioning it's not looking too bad, because these shooters, I've got my half-breeds out of their arc, so they can't turn and shoot me or charge me. All they can do is threaten these two units at the moment. So the half-breeds are probably going to score that unless I get them killed, which I should be able to avoid. I've got my rocket launcher. I think that also contributed some wounds to this unit as well, which is why I managed to get 10 in total, which is quite a high number. But rocket launcher's still alive. My opponent may want to chase it down with something, perhaps a Standard Bearer. Although that's taking a scoring unit out of the scoring zones. So I've got this area. If my big flyer is not under threat from anybody this turn, so it should still be alive, and I could then maybe charge this unit with it. And if I kill them, I would then steal the area off them, which would be nice. So, the enemy have got this middle zone pretty much wrapped up, it looks like. Depending where these units go, obviously if they were to stay in a position where I could hit them with something else, who knows, but it's looking like the central area is going to belong to the enemy, but the two areas out on the flanks are not looking strong for them. They can't just duck the Standard Bearer in there, because this is a Titan. So if I just charge in and kill them, the Titan is worth 2 and this guy's worth 1. One thing you could do is bring them up to the edge, so that I would have to charge them and then successfully overrun far enough, which is adding an extra dice roll to whether I'll actually get into that area to score. So you're just making it a bit more difficult. And if I were to just fly over them, I don't have enough unit strength to take them out of the equation. I have to actually kill them and then successfully overrun into the area in order to take it, unless they just totally leave the zone on their own. So, turn 6 for the Ogres. So it could be their last turn, so they have to be very careful with positioning here, because otherwise we could be in a position where I can win at the end of turn 6. So, standard bearer into the rocket launcher, which is going to, at the very least, stop it shooting. We've got a triple charge into the Grotesques, which is almost certainly going to kill them. We've got a double charge into the Immortal Guard, almost certainly going to kill them. So these two should be deleted, but hopefully not necessary for winning the game, these two units. Because you see how it's looking now. They're very abandoned. They actually back up a bit. So, because they back up, I don't know if it was intentional, but they back up far enough so that I would not be able to... hold on. No, I'm not sure if their backing up actually affected it. Yeah, because what I wanted to do was move 10, get into the zone, and then shoot them. But I think they probably checked whether I would have space to do that. And I don't have space to do it, because the fireball is better than charging in this situation. It's got way more attacks. And yeah, so that would just be a better option for trying to finish off the unit. So as it stands, I'm going to have to charge them because of the distance involved here. Now, if my opponent wanted me to definitely charge and not use the fireball, one thing that could have been an option was to move forwards, because if I just fireball you from here, I'm not in the scoring area. So because the distance is involved, backing up probably perfectly valid. And I suppose if you're thinking that you can't stop what's going to happen here because you're wavered, then maybe backing up is a way to get my flyer further away from the rest of your army, which is a valid thought process as well. So, the rocket launcher is dead, Immortal Guard are dead, and the shooters turn to face the half-breeds, and the Grotesques are dead. The chariot can't really turn to face anywhere, so it just faces that way. And the other units back up a bit, I think, as well, so that they're in the scoring zone. Now, this is the end of Ogre turn 6. If I kill this unit, and the game ends at the end of turn 6, I just win the game, because I'll hold the two outer scoring areas. It doesn't matter what's going on in here. If this Ironcaster can finish off this unit, and the combined attacks of a fresh half-breed unit in the front, and Susan charging in as well. Those two units combined can kill the Ogre shooters, which they are certainly capable of doing, combined. Then the game ends at the end of turn 6, then that would be it. Obviously I would need the game to end there, otherwise it'd be looking very dicey because there's a giant around here facing this way. And yeah, so I would need the game to end as well. So the Ironcaster does his part, charges in, does enough damage, kills off the unit. Over here, Susan and the half-breeds do 11 wounds, but only waver the enemy unit. So those are the nerve rolls there. I rolled a 10, and then a 5, so only enough to waver them. Wow, wow, wow. So if the game does end now, that means I do not have enough unit strength to win in this area here, because my opponent has the shooters and the bully there. If it goes to turn 7, what happens? Well, they're wavered, so they are actually in a really annoying position for the enemy. I don't know... I'm not sure what they could actually do. Because... let's see, if we get turn 7, this unit can't go sideways because they'd stay within an inch. They can't go backwards because Susan's there. So they are stuck, blocking access. Everyone is in the front, I think, of these half-breeds, so none of the other units can charge them. So that would be very interesting. The best they can do is move more unit strength in there, which is risky because that leaves this area a bit exposed as well. This guy could probably get back in there. But yeah, it would be very interesting because of the specific arrangement here. The chariot would have to just either charge Susan or go away. The giant... I don't know, because obviously they wouldn't be able to finish that close to the half-breeds. So them being wavered is actually really annoying for them, because I think they are completely blocking access to this unit. So that is potentially very bad for the Ogres if there's a turn 7. What would I then be able to do? Finish off this unit and pretty much do the same thing I just did. Except if anyone leaves themselves in a lazy position, maybe this guy could come in and kill them, but probably wouldn't want to do that because I'm just happy holding this table section. So yeah, if there's... because I haven't killed this unit, I now probably need a turn 7, just looking at this setup here. Let's find out. Wow, there is no turn 7. So it's a win for the Ogres. They hold the central area and they hold this one. They've got the shooters and they've also got this hero. They've got the centre with all those units and I've got the flank over here. So I had to do a big rethink mid-game because none of my attacks went off the way I intended. I think the Grotesque Champion rolled very poorly against the Crocodog, which hindered that flank a bit. And over on the left flank, my half-breeds got killed by a very, very good hindered charge by some Ogres, which is... it's not completely ridiculous for that to happen. But I was hoping they would live. And other than that, yeah, a unit of Ogre shooters did actually survive the game here, despite throwing lots of units up there to try and take them out. The fact that I took this flank ended up almost winning me the game, and my opponent only leaving one unit in this area was almost fatal. And you see the change with Titans here, because that standard bearer, rather than hunting down the rocket launcher, could have just hid there. And then in the old rules, if my Titan charges in, kills that unit, it's now a draw, 1 unit strength each. But the fact that Titans are now worth 2 means that this guy being in there would have made no difference at all. You would have needed more than that. You would have needed like another horde in there, which would be way too much to take out of the fight here. Since I didn't throw in my Immortal Guard and Grotesques, the enemy had to come to me, which meant they couldn't put significant resources into holding this table section. So just having to rejig and thinking, you know what, if it just gets into a killing frenzy, I'm probably not going to win that, so let's see what I can do in terms of the scenario. And it almost worked out at the end. So, very good, very close game. Could have obviously gone either way there if I'd killed this unit instead of wavering them. I think I just needed one more on the nerve roll to kill them. Then that would have won the game. Yeah, because they're on 11, and I rolled a 5 to get them up to 16. And sadly, there is no Brutal involved here. Because I've got several units that do have Brutal or Dread, but it's just not these two, unfortunately. And that would have been enough to kill them as well, if I, for example, had Bracky there instead of Susan. And yeah, there's a very interesting ending with this situation with these two units, with them being wavered. I think I'm correct in thinking that they'll just be unable to move at all. And then that means no one is able to charge the half-breeds, because I think they're all in the front. So yeah, very fascinating conclusion to this one. And it's an interesting scenario. Played it a few times now, one from the new book, and I quite like it. It's like a mixture of control and dominate. So, pretty tasty. I like it. And what do I think about this list? Is this going to make it to the tournament as is? I don't know. The Grotesque Champion, while he is powerful, I haven't got the best use out of him yet. I think he has been a bit unlucky, but I think maybe I need to use him a bit better. The Big Flyer is 330 points with all the upgrades I put on it, but it's also very good. Being able to do, if you're surrounded by enough units, then you've got Fireball 21 and Heal 7, which you can cast at the same time, which is very powerful. And it's still a big flyer that can threaten flanks from a very long way away, so it still carries that threat as well, as you saw in this game. So I do like it. It's very expensive though. So those are the two things that are debatable as to whether they're optimal for the list, I would say. I think everything else really justifies itself. Susan and Bracky, always good choices. I think the half-breeds are good now, with the little nerve boost that they've got. They're still not amazing. You can still kill them much more easily than you can Grotesques with the low defense. But they are good now, I would say. They went from not really seeing much at events to you might see people taking them now. They're solid. I think Grotesques are the big winners from the book with all the special rules they gained. They gained Strider and Fury, which is a massive deal for them. Some of the things they struggled with in the past have just been cured completely. So I really like Grotesques. The only benefit that the half-breeds have over them is they hit on 3s instead of 4s, and they're a teensy bit faster. So I quite like the list. I might make a few little tweaks. I might just completely rewrite the whole thing in the next few days before the list submission deadline. That remains to be seen. I'm not sure when this video is going up actually, because I've just done one live battle report and then I'm recording this one separately so I can put them out staggered. And yeah, there's another one which I haven't recorded yet but may go up before this one, just to make things more complicated. Well, that's that. A win for the Ogres, very close, very good game. Happy with the Abyssal Dwarf changes. Let me know what you thought of that game. If there was any tactical choices that you would have done differently, let me know. Let me know what you think of the new Abyssal Dwarves. Don't forget to check out all the links down below, of course, and like the video and all that good stuff, and pledge me all your life savings via Patreon or PayPal, obviously. And other than that, I think all that remains to be said is good night out there, whatever you are.